And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We are talking the Las Vegas Grand Prix. We're talking the controversial Las Vegas Grand Prix fallout. Yes, if it's not controversial, it's not F1. The two seemingly go hand in hand. Not a week goes by when there isn't some kind of story that raises some sort of controversy. And Las Vegas certainly has, and it wasn't just that first practice session being cancelled. There is a bit more. As you can see here in the headlines, Leclerc on Verstappen penalty, not really being too happy about it, saying he still had an advantage despite that penalty. We'll get into that. Also, Verstappen being labelled a hypocrite. Yes, the man that's come to Las Vegas saying 1% about the sport, 99% about the show. I looked like a clown, wasn't a massive fan of the circuit going in, yet sings Viva Las Vegas and is now loving it seemingly on his in-lap and after winning. McLaren, they want answers after that crash, that Lando Norris crash. Yet we're eating humble pie at the Hot Lap, labelling Lando a loser of the race, but seemingly a bit more complex than that because McLaren are saying it was a bump in the track that made him lose the car. Fans tear down screens. As you know, unlike Monaco, which pretty much allows fan access, but Las Vegas didn't. They put up screens to hide people from the racetrack that hadn't paid, but fans were seemingly tearing down those screens to get a view. And it's not America, it's not the US, it's definitely not Las Vegas without a lawsuit. Fans sending a lawsuit to Las Vegas in relation to their experience. We'll also get into that. But our first story, Leclerc on that Verstappen penalty. This is from WTF1.com. So Leclerc says his choice of penalty gave Verstappen the Las Vegas Grand Prix an advantage. As I said, WTF1.com's reporting that, as we know, the Las Vegas Grand Prix had arguably its biggest flashpoint just seconds in, as an over-aggressive lunge on Leclerc by Verstappen led to more controversy. Yeah, Verstappen was eventually punished and admitted it was later the right call for that dive bomb to be hit with a 5-second time penalty for running Leclerc off the track, a la Brazil 2021, Saudi Arabia 2021 and Hamilton. But Charles himself suggested in the post-race press conference there needs to be a better way to punish drivers. He said, then he has been penalised, he paid the penalty, and that was the right penalty to give, said Leclerc. In those kind of situations, it would be better for the FIA to ask to give the place back because there's quite a bit of an advantage to take care of tyres when you have free air, but is the way it is. Now, when you think about it, even Verstappen was like, send him my regards with that 5-second penalty, maybe somewhat arrogantly thinking they're just going to drive away to that 5-second gap and thank you very much. Yet he obtained the lead by essentially breaking the rules. So one could argue, was he cheating? Was he not? Whether he meant to cheat or not, he gained that advantage, and he took the lead because of his actions at the first corner, pushing both of them wide, going off. You could even argue going off the track and gaining an advantage. So that's not really akin to that 5 seconds, and we've seen it. It's not just Verstappen. We've seen it so many times in Formula One where some guy gets the advantage, pushes the other guy off, gets that place back. 5 seconds up the road, takes a penalty, and he's still ahead. It doesn't make a difference. I want the days, excuse me, where we have the stop-go penalties, where we have a drive-through and a penalty meant something. Now, I'm pretty sure if it was a drive-through given to Max Verstappen, he wouldn't definitely not have been that happy. He still may have won the race because best car driver combination still, and the safety cars definitely helped him. Let's continue though. So there's a valid argument, it says to Charles's comments, where having the option to give the place back or taking a 5-second penalty gives too much strategic freedom to the opposing party. What was I just saying? And it's not the first time the use of the 5-second penalty has been questioned this season. Austin's sprint race had George Russell given a 5-second time penalty for an illegal overtake track limits on Oscar Piastri. Now this led to accusations that illegal passes are being premeditated because faster cars could take the penalty. So at the time, Albon told the race, the penalty isn't big enough, it's a silly penalty. I've talked about it a few times before, it punishes a slower car. I'm sure George knew he was off track and thought, I can afford this and go 5 seconds quicker than be stuck behind him. That's how it is, Oscar agreed, saying, maybe some people will have it premeditated, but it definitely sets a precedent for the kind of penalty you are going to get for doing that. And if you are in a quicker car, it gives you an incentive. Yeah, completely agree. That needs to change for 2024. Something that needs to be seriously looked at, I feel. So, more on Verstappen. This is not the Hate Verstappen show, don't worry. But he's been labelled a hypocrite. This is from planetf1.com by Michelle Foster. Torn apart over embarrassing Las Vegas criticism. Yeah, so from lamenting a clown show to singing Viva Las Vegas, Jolyon Palmer believes Max Verstappen's negative attitude toward the Las Vegas Grand Prix was embarrassing. Now, as Formula One, as we know, arrived in Las Vegas for the first time in 40 years, there were concerns that the hype may well outshine the racing. I don't think that was the case. Talking about the race, as I mentioned on our race review show, I feel that it was one of the best races of the year. Not a classic in terms of when you look back at 2021, there were many more races that I thought more exciting. But for 2023, judging just on the races this year, it was easily one of the best. Anyway, moving on. So Verstappen was one of the biggest naysayers in the paddock, and he said the drivers looked like clowns in that opening Hunger Games-ish ceremony on Wednesday night, while declaring after second practice that he'd seen better tracks in my life. Yep, okay, I agree about the better tracks, but proof of the pudding is in the eating. It gave us a good race. So from shambles to Viva Las Vegas for Verstappen. His criticism continued after qualifying when he said the race was 99% show, 1% race. Monaco is Champions League and this is National League. But less than 24 hours and an 18th Grand Prix win of the season later, he was belting out Viva Las Vegas as he returned to the pits. Palmer said it was embarrassing for Verstappen. He said, honestly, some of the comments before this weekend, even during the weekend, the negativity has been embarrassing. Max has been very critical of the event. It's been a tremendous success, he told the Checkered Flag podcast on the BBC. He said, we say the proof of the pudding is in the eating. It's blooming delicious. I think the best Grand Prix of the year certainly is in the top few, and it was a big crowd. Okay, some of the American tastes isn't for everyone, big introductions, etc. But I remember when I was racing at Silverstone, all the drivers were mandated to go to London on the Wednesday before to go and do some loop-de-loops up Trafalgar Square. He said it was a fun event, but we had to do it. Hamilton famously didn't turn up. Yeah, I kind of agree. It did make him out to be a complete hypocrite. Maybe he shouldn't have sung Viva Las Vegas. I get it. He's excited. And to be fair to Max, that was his hardest race I felt that he won this year. Because he definitely had some challenges. And even, 2/3 of the way through the race, you really couldn't bet on a winner. So, oh Max. But let's move on from the Verstappen and talk about McLaren and Lando Norris. Yes, McLaren, this is from Planet F1 by Thomas Meyer. McLaren want action after finding cause of strange Lando Norris Vegas crash. So as we know, McLaren's Stella, he believes a change will be need to made in the Las Vegas track after Norris crashed heavily, was hospitalised. He is okay. The British driver became a passenger after losing control of his car on lap 4 of the Grand Prix, spinning off in dramatic fashion at turn 11, colliding with the barriers and then pretty much skating down to the escape area. Luckily, as we know, Norris wasn't hurt but winded and he was brought to a nearby hospital for those precautionary checks. He is absolutely fine. Has the McLaren updates been. His crash, though, has been identified by McLaren. Now, this bizarre crash had seen Norris just suddenly swap ends going through the left-hand corner, but team boss Stella, he's confirmed that it wasn't a car failure that triggered the nasty accident. He said there's a bump in that place, Stella told the media afterwards. You can see all cars sparkle when they go through the bump. I think the combination of the bump and the cold tyres might have surprised him. Stella said it's important that bump is addressed before F1 returns to the venue next year. He said, I think that bump, if we carry on racing at night time, should be fixed because the tyres will always be cold, low grip, and it becomes a tricky corner. Already during the weekend, we saw cases of oversteer in that place, so independently of the timetable, we would strongly recommend that this bump is smoothed out. Yeah, I completely agree, and I humbly and reservingly apologise to Lando Norris, thinking it was all down to him. If that, as McLaren is saying, that's the case. You got to give it to them. So massive apologies, Lando. We are sorry. Fans, though, tearing down the screens. Well, that's definitely not Lando's fault. So F1 fans, this is from motorsport.com. Tearing down the blocking screens during the Las Vegas Grand Prix. This is by Alex Kalunakis. No, I can't. I'm sorry, Alex. He's also I think the one of the editors of Autosport. So, Formula One fans watching the Grand Prix tore down controversial track view blocking screens along the public areas of the city's famous strip. There they are there. Hello. So, the race had already courted some controversy in the weeks leading up to this weekend in this element when view blocking filters were applied to areas of pedestrian bridges running over the strip that prevented people without tickets seeing the track. Now, when attempts were made to remove this by local residents, it was replaced in the relevant areas and had cage-like structures that added that also covered the bridges upper elements to stop anything from being thrown down onto the track. Now, shops along the strip were also prevented from selling glass items during specific times around F1 sessions as part of a bid to prevent anything dangerous from ending up on the track. Completely agree. As is the case at many permanent tracks, F1 visits view blocking screens were also added to many of the fences that limited the track's perimeter on the strip pavement, which remained accessible to the public even during live sessions. Now, during the Las Vegas race, as can be seen in the photos we've seen above and below, some fans, some clad in team wear merchandise, but thought it to be without tickets, successfully tore this down to gain a view of the track on the strip beyond. Event staff attempted to replace the screens after they were damaged, but unsuccessful. The area of concern was opposite, if you want to know, Planet Hollywood, the casino and hotel, which sits close to turn 14, the main overtaking point on the track layout. There they are there, very happy about toning those screens down. Now, the organisers' bodies of the Australian-Brazilian Grand Prix this year were summoned to explain incidences of spectators breaching security lines to the respective stewards panels at those events, while fan interactions with the fan infrastructure had been a point of focus. However, Motorsport.com understands that no safety concerns regarding fan behaviour were raised in race control during the action-packed event. This was also, you need to know, F1 are their own promoters for this. They're kind of in charge of the track, unlike going to Silverstone or Brazil, where they deal with other promoters as almost like a business, the track itself. So then, are they going to really tell on themselves? You have to start to wonder. But the fences in question were positioned away from the barriers, lining the edge. I mean, what do you guys think about that? I think it's quite bad what they did, but I think with all the controversy over the Las Vegas Grand Prix, something like that was almost bound to happen if they didn't have enough security. And I mean, even the strip there, it's not going to be the best. I think they're the grandstands behind them. It's not going to be the best view. And yeah, I mean, come on, it's a street track. Everyone, if you didn't get grandstand tickets, etc., I don't know. Let's see next year what happens. But last but not least, we have the what I can say is slightly controversial lawsuits. Yeah, if there's no lawsuit, it feels like it's not going to be America. So deprived of the experience, F1 fans file lawsuit over the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Now, organisers of the Las Vegas Grand Prix are facing a class action lawsuit following the chaos to the start of the race weekend and that was that practice session. So, though the race changed hands on multiple occasions, it was Verstappen who clinched it. Leclerc passed Perez on the final lap. What a move. But despite, it says, the glitzy showdown, including Justin Bieber waving the checkered flag, fans were not impressed. Let's say some fans. So, spectators saw just 8 minutes of action in that first practice session after a drain cover put a halt to proceedings. We've spoken about that. Now, the second running was delayed by 2.5 hours and took place in front of vacant grandstands as furious fans were ejected to comply with local employment laws. Practice finished at 4. Really, really regrettable, but it was important that the F1 drivers had their practice session. Maybe they could have had an extra half an hour practice session as well, maybe the next day, but that doesn't stop, that doesn't undo what happened on Friday. But here's the thing that I got a bit cross at. Now, spectators who held a £200 general admission ticket for Thursday's 2 practice sessions have since been offered a voucher for the same amount on redeemed merchandise. A voucher? What? But those in attendance on the 3-day pass, the cheapest of which cost $500, around £400, will not receive any compensation. Now, on Friday, Nevada-based law firm and co-counsel JK Legal and Consulting filed a lawsuit with the Nevada District Court seeking damages for the 35,000 paying spectators. It says, "We will vindicate the rights of the fans that travelled great distances and paid small fortunes to attend, but were deprived of the experience." A spokesman for the Las Vegas Grand Prix, though, said, "We cannot comment on the litigation." I guess they can't if there's a lawsuit. "Our focus," he says, "is on ensuring that our fans have an entertaining experience in a safe, secure environment, which is always our top priority." It was safe and secure. Entertaining it was not, though. And not getting any kind of like payment out if you got the compensation, if you got the big tickets, the cheapest of which costs, what is it? Costs $500, £400. That's absolutely crazy. And a $200 voucher? A voucher? No, you want your money back. Surely. It's 8 minutes of Formula One. I know it was difficult to like apportion blame to it. Yes, the circuit failed. I guess it wasn't the fans' fault. So earlier, F1 chief Dominicali stopped short of issuing an apology. They should have done. I imagine that was not for legal reasons. If you've done something wrong, apologise. In a 650-word joint statement with the CEO of the Las Vegas race, he said, we have all been to events like concerts, games, and even other Formula One races that have been cancelled because of factors like weather. They said, it happens and we hope people will understand. Yes, people understand. Ahead of the race, Verstappen criticised the Las Vegas Grand Prix, 99% show. We've talked about that, 1% for sport. But he said, this is the thing here. We have all been to events like concerts, games, and even other Formula One races that have been cancelled because of factors like weather or technical issues. Okay, I get it. Belgian Grand Prix, you can't control the weather. But what the FIA did at the Belgian Grand Prix was to bring the cars out just to have one official racing lap under the safety car so they didn't have to compensate all of the fans that had paid. Disgusting. Yeah, this is a multi-million, nearly billion dollar company, business, and to say weather or technical issues, I can understand the weather. Technical issues, the track, that shouldn't have happened. Yeah, mistakes are made. We get that, okay? But that still should not have happened. That caused fans not to watch practice, and to give them a $200 voucher for practice and not reimburse fans that had the all 3-day general tickets, absolutely disgusting from a sport, from a business that can, let's be honest, afford it. If Formula One sport is nothing without its fans. It's nothing without the fans paying for it. The sport is now on pay TV. Yep, pay TV. Most people, like here in the UK, if you want to watch the races live, you've got to pay. Obviously, if you want to watch the races in person, you've got to pay. You go to the tracks, you pay a lot of money. And it is a lot. If you bring in your family, it's like a holiday in terms of the amount you pay. So that is a massive middle finger. Liberty Media, hang your head in shame. My rant's probably not going to do much, but it's a very unhappy situation, and I hope those fans get their money back at the very least, and some more, because of the fact they've had to do this. Anyway, moving on. This has been the Hot Lap. Thank you very much. If you've made it to the end, you are an F1 champion. If you subscribe and made it to the end, you are a multiple F1 champion. But, I mean, just you viewing this, even if it's for a few minutes, that is enough for me. Thank you very much. We will speak to you soon.